The new president of the Ivory Coast called for peace now that the former president, Laurent Gbagbo, has been captured.
Laurent Gbagbo has been arrested, is well and alive, and he will be brought to justice.
More than 1 million civilians fled their homes in the Ivory Coast during the 4-month battle between the two rivals. National leaders allied with the new president, Alassane Ouattara, say their country's nightmare is over, but others are concerned that deep divisions remain and more tough times lay ahead.
If it goes the way that most of the countries have in the past, we'll see a general tightening up and restrictions applied to the freedom that we have had in the past with preaching the gospel.
Ouattara discouraged speculation that Gbagbo will face an international trial for crimes committed by his soldiers, but he did call for a state investigation into Gbagbo's activities and said he will be treated well. Now let's go back over to Pat for more on this story.
We asked our top international correspondent, Gary Lane, to go over to Ivory Coast, talk to the president over there, and see what's happening. And Gary, how do you read this?
I read it as a soft coup d'etat. This was led by the French. They
Yes.
co-opted the United Nations to give them legitimacy in what they were doing, and then they can say, well, this is an international effort. But they want to control the country. It's their former colony.
Gary, I think you're right on the money. How come the international reporters don't pick that up? It's so obvious.
I think some reporters are lazy, and what they will do is just take whatever is spoon-fed to them. So the French, the United Nations hand them a release. They have press conferences at the Gulf Hotel, and they go and cover it. They can say they've done their job. They have the cameras there, and they don't really dig deeper.
Well, they call him a strong man, like he's some kind of a, you know, Libya Gaddafi type of leader. He's not.
There's no comparison. And I even heard one cable network news reporter say that he was the self-appointed president. He wasn't self-appointed. I met with 7 members, all 7 members of the Constitutional Council when I was there. They laid out all their evidence of why they declared him the winner. And they only they have the authority to swear him in. Who swore Ouattara in? Was it the UN, the French? We still don't know. How was he sworn in?
You met with every member of that constitutional...
Yes, all 7 members.
And they all, to a man, said that...
he is the president. They said it was a fraudulent election. There were at least 500 polling stations that had no votes in the north recorded for Gbagbo, even though he had poll workers there that would have voted for him. It was fraud on a massive scale. They threw out about 500,000 votes and declared Gbagbo the winner.
Well, but nobody has come back and said we ought to have a recount. There's been no demand for a recount.
No, there hasn't, because this was planned well in advance. You know, it was determined by the French. They got the United States involved in the United Nations. They've been after Gbagbo for many years, long before he was president, because he is pro-Ivory Coast. He doesn't want to see the French continue to dominate that country. Did you know that 50% of their exports, the profits of those, go to the French? The French control their currency. It's like they're still a colony. Gbagbo said, enough already. We need more of this money for the people of Ivory Coast. The French stood up to him, and you know, they had more troops than he did.
He's a sacrificial lamb. You know, we got some clown up at the New York Times contacting me, said, did you know about the human rights abuses, and how did you defended him, and how did you do it, on what basis? And I said, it's on the basis of your reporting.
What evidence is there of Gbagbo's human rights abuses? They've said this in the past. There have been these claims. You discredit him so you can call him a strong man, a human rights abuser, then you're justified in getting rid of him. But if they put him on trial, then Alassane Ouattara needs also to be put on trial, because there was a slaughter, a massacre of 800 people in the western part of that country just last month. People were burned alive. And I have it on video in my blog. You can go to my blog at cbnnews.com, Global Lane, and look at it and see that. That's evidence. So if he puts him on trial, then what about Ouattara?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. This man is the sacrificial lamb for French hegemony. I've been over in Africa, and I've seen a French operative at work, and when you go to France, they'll also, you leave your hotel room, they'll search your baggage, and they'll do all kinds of things. They're so interested in finding out what we're doing. I know they're our allies, but they've sure manipulated the United Nations on this one. Gary, I don't think we can do, though. I mean, Qatar, I mean...
it's a done deal. deal now. All we can do is put pressure on to make sure that he and his wife and family members are safe. His son was beaten up, and it looks like people are still fighting. There have been gunfire and so forth, so we pray that it doesn't lead to civil war.
Gary Lane. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the story. That is the true story of what's happening over there. French hegemony. Get back the cocoa trade. Get back the gold they've got over there. Get back the diamonds. Get back any other precious minerals they've got, and oil if they find some. So that's the story. And don't believe what you read in the paper, including the Wall Street Journal, which I think the world of. They've been sucked in along with the rest of them.